Hi, welcome to another Author Spotlight. This time I'm speaking with author S.L. Perrine. If you haven't had a chance to read her written interview, I suggest you take a look at it. The link is down in the description box. This is really meant as a supplement, it's not meant as a replacement, and there are a few things you might not fully understand if you haven't read the written interview. Also, I had some issues with the software I used to record the video. Unfortunately, the audio was all wonky. I did my best to edit it and make it completely legible, but there are a few places where I wasn't quite successful doing that. Hopefully it won't be too much of an inconvenience, and thanks for checking it out anyway. I really didn't want to have to take up more of our time to re-record the interview. I hope you enjoy it.
I know your days are crazy busy, and thank you for taking time to talk to me for a little bit. I really appreciate it.
Whatever.
Now, if I recall correctly, your most recent story officially is the Hunter's Curse and the Damsels of Distress anthology. What's that one about? Without giving us any spoilers, if you can.
I can give spoilers because it's actually something that I started writing over the summer when the anthology was introduced or when it was open. It was a completely new idea that I had come up with, and I don't even remember if I came up with it, but basically it's about Ravana Moon. She was a hunter, she was born a hunter, and there was this guy they call the Ancient One because we don't have a name for him. He was turned by the original vampire, by Dracula himself. And because he was born a hunter and despised everything vampire, he used all of his alchemy knowledge to devise a way to kind of fix himself. And in order to do that, he had to experiment on vampires, and when that didn't work, he experimented with hunters. Basically, if you ever watched Blade and Buffy, so she is born with all of the supernatural abilities that Buffy's born with, but she's the vampire that Blade is. So sunlight doesn't bother her, iron, silver really can't kill her unless you take her head off. But we don't know that for sure because nobody's ever done it.
Gotcha.
So Ravana Moon is just a reincarnation of herself. When she died and came back to life, she didn't remember her old life. She has no idea who she was. So she's hunting this guy, the Ancient One, to find out those, detailed information. And along the way, she has some exciting characters that she interacts with. So being neither a vampire, neither a hunter, she's kind of one of her own. And this is definitely not a young adult. This is my full-fledged 2 feet in the ground, out writing. I'm sure I'll probably continue here and there, but I definitely want to move out into other genres right now. And the Hunter's Curse kind of tells a little bit of her backstory with her and our hero. So she's the heroine, and then the hero, I guess, you gotta have one, Massimo.
Okay.
And kind of like how they interact with each other. There is a little hint of, not in the short story, but in the full-fledged, because I decided to take it full-fledged and do a full-on series about it. So it's a little male-male romance, female-female romance, female-male romance.
Okay.
So it's got a little bit of everything in it, and it's definitely full steam ahead into a completely different area for me.
Okay. Well, it sounds fun. It's on my to-be read pile.
In my to-be finished writing.
Well, there's that too. And so you just released the cover of The Curse of, is it Ormshire?
Yeah, I haven't been able to pronounce that since I have this weird thing where I just pick random names for stuff and I don't even sound them out myself, because when you read something, you're going to decide in your own head what it's going to sound like anyway. So yeah, in the pronunciations in the back of the so then I put in a pronunciation page so that you could, but yeah, or it's like arm and shire. So
okay.
Yeah.
So I love the cover. It's gorgeous.
I had it here to show you.
Yeah. Well, I'll be putting a picture up on the screen so everybody can see the beautifulness that it is. And that's part of the Beast Within series.
Yep, and I actually have the first one with me.
Which is also a beautiful cover because Lorraine does amazing work.
She does, and actually with this one and with the second one, it was something that she made herself, just playing with, and I saw it and I said, I have to have that. So I didn't even have to like tell her what I wanted. She just did one, and I'm like, oh, I like that. I want that, and she put my title and everything on it, and it works.
It's fate. So where does this one go with the story?
So a little bit for those who don't know about the first one, Renee kind of finds out that she's from another world. We're thinking once upon a time, basically she's living in this world, but she's from a fairy tale world. So in the second book, you're kind of getting a little bit of backstory about before the curse and before she was like put into this ultimate plane. So kind of like a back and forth. I was going so many different ways with it, and finally I put it out to my readers. I asked my publisher, I asked my betas, I asked everybody, which would you rather me do? Originally, the second book was very short, just like the first one, and a lot of people had a hard time with the fact that it was so short. They wanted more story. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you more story. It's either I'm rewriting the second one as it is now, or I'm going to take the second, and at the time I had the third book completed, and I'm going to combine them. So the second book was originally like a prequel. It basically told you the entire story before the curse of everything that was going on. And then the third one was a continuation at that cliffhanger from the first one. So everybody thought it would be a really fun idea if we took the second and the third one and combined it together. So you get a couple chapters, you get like one really long chapter of backstory, and then you get a continuation, and then so on and so forth. It kind of goes like that throughout the book. So you're finding out what happened, the entire story. There's not going to be any more glimpses in other books. You get the full on backstory in the second book as to what happened and what led up to all of this stuff.
Okay.
And then you also get the continuation, basically, the passage opens and the realization of finding her mother and going to her father with everything that's going on, trying to find that one person who has the power to defeat Oribus and just breaking your curse in general. So it's just really a lot of adventure.
All right. Sounds fun.
I had fun writing it. This is definitely young adult, but I think it's more for a juvenile kind of age group. I didn't really realize that when I was writing it to begin with. I was very safe when writing it because this is like the first series that I've ever written, ever. So I was very cautious while writing.
Well, yeah, there also tends to be the fact that, adults will go back and read young adult, middle school books and stuff. It doesn't necessarily work the other direction, but adults can read anything they want. So
yeah, definitely.
Now, in your written interview, you mentioned when you were talking about how well you'd fit into your books that you're a witch. So how much of the witchcraft in the Crawford Witch Chronicles and Blood Rite series come from your own experiences?
I would have to say the belief system, definitely. Spells, maybe. I write everything myself, so there's a little bit of magic spells in the Beast Within. There's definitely magic spells in the Crawford Witch Chronicles and Blood Rites. I don't use a lot of incantating. Yeah, I just said that. I don't use a lot of incantations in my books or a show of spells. It's more or less a lot more action, but definitely the belief in, your coming being your family and just a lot of the regular beliefs, Mother Nature, and being one with the earth. And I always wear my healing crystal with me at all times, and just things that I've learned over the years, just reading and practicing. Okay. So pretty much all of it.
Yeah, I have to say, I really enjoyed how you handled the incantation aspects, with having, you mentioned the chanting and you mentioned that something's happening, but you don't actually give it to us, so we can kind of fill in whatever we want to or what that's going to look like. And I thought that was really cool because I hadn't seen that happen before.
Yeah, I like to do different. I really what it happened to have been when I was writing that is I had read a series years ago by Kate Perrine, the Sweet series. It's like 14 long books, and it's basically almost the same thing. Girl finds out she's a witch, or she knew she was a witch, or something to that nature. I don't even remember. It's been so long ago, and I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do it in a way that isn't going to leave the readers asking more questions than they had when they started the series. Because, okay, what is this about? You pick it up, and then by the end of the book, you had more questions.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that. And I wanted to kind of do, I like doing things differently. I don't like doing the same old, same old. So I tried to just put that different aspect into my writing.
Well, I think you succeeded.
Oh, thank you.
So going back to your written interview, you mentioned that there was a book you were working on where your YA characters suddenly wanted to rip each other's clothes off. Which book was that?
Well, when we get into book 3, the Crawford Witch Chronicles, we are introduced to an entire new plethora of characters, and one of them being Finnan Kavanaugh. He's a shifter. He is defiant, to say the least, but think of Brendan Kerr from, I always picture him, Roswell.
Okay.
So Roswell, not the main character with the dark hair, but Brendan, the other one. So he's gone, and I'm thinking of this guy while I'm writing, my character, and I'm like, well, okay, well then him and Elise kind of like start talking and doing, and he has to shift in front of her. So he literally did rip his clothes off, and I got a little too with her, and it was like, whoa, slow down, this is young adult, this is not going there, no, save it for Mama. Yeah. So yeah, there was a couple spots where he literally had to undress in front of her or else risk ripping his clothes off. I mean, I don't know how when I read a shifter book, that's what I think of. What happened to their clothes?
Yeah.
But did they just like fall off?
Poof!
They change back to a human, and all of a sudden they're dressed, and it's like, do they carry around a fanny pack like attached to, so I make it a point to mention what happens with the clothing, and there was definitely, and they were on a beach, and they were all by themselves, and yeah.
And they got carried away.
She definitely got carried away with the internal monologue, let me tell you. Yes.
Oh, well, it happens,
By book 3, it's going to be a Team Chad, Team Finn, and nobody's going to know which way she's going. Unfortunately, in young adult, that's what you get, but it's not as drawn out as, say, other young adult books where it's like the whole series. It's just one book. There's 4, so in the third one, you get this, but it's really not what everybody thinks it is.
Unlike a certain series that happens to be behind you.
Yes. And then that one.
So my last question for you, you have quite a few series going at once. How do you keep the storylines from crossing? I can't manage to keep my storyline separate when I read and write at the same time, much less try to write different books.
That's an interesting question. I've never really thought of that. I think because, so I started The Beast Within first. I had the first 3 books done. Now they've been combined, so it's the first 2. So I kind of just walked away from it. I haven't done anything with it up until right before, I think I finished putting book 2 together last month. So I didn't really work on them one at a time. Except for when I was doing the Crawford Witch Chronicles, I started with book 1. At the time, I was with the Dragon Partnership Publishing. Nikki Yeager and I kind of brainstormed through the whole series. And then I had the idea of doing the Blood Rage series. And then I had the idea of doing another series that will come later, which I'm not mentioning right now. But all of the timelines kind of intertwined with each other. So that was when I was done with Immortal Summer. when I started writing Power Surge, which is the second book in the series, I started writing Blood Rights. So you finish Blood Rights in June when you get Power Surge, you'll definitely see how they were like written side by side of each other.
Okay.
Like I literally spent 2 hours on this book, 2 hours on this book, wrote something in this book, had an idea, and went back to. I mean, I literally had them open at the same time, and I was going back and forth. It wasn't hard. I don't know that I could have crossed timelines because it was definitely thinking of the past. Maybe they were more. If I was writing two different theories that didn't have anything to do with each other, I probably would have done something like that. But I think it was just really easy because I was focused and I just had a mindset on being in this time and being in this time, and it worked out really well. So I actually, when I start the third in the Blood Rights trilogy, that's when I will start the fourth in the Crawford Witch Chronicles because I'm right there. I'm at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be so sad. I think I've put it off for months now because I'm going to be so sad. It's the longest series. Well, it's not the longest series, but it's the most time I've spent in one world.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that we necessarily think about. It sucks as a reader to have to leave a world because the series is done, but it sucks for the author too to have to leave the world they've been delving into.
Yeah, it's like I'm having my own book hangover about writing my books, about finishing my book. So it's definitely different because I actually got a new book and I've had it for 2 months and I didn't start reading it until recently because I was anticipating that book hangover after I was done reading it, knowing that it wasn't out for a year. Going, oh, this is why I haven't written the last in both of my series because I'm gonna have a hangover from I'm not gonna write them anymore. So yeah, it definitely happens for the writer as well.
Yeah.
And I will try to keep that in mind with my favorite authors in the future, I suppose.
So now, do you want to share with us any of your other books?
Oh, I have with me Immortal Slumber.
Which is awesome.
Thank you. I realized though that I did wonder on something, and I'm surprised nobody has caught me on it or called me out on it yet. I was writing, and I realized that when I started the series, Chad was older than Elise. But when I wrote the second book of Blood Rights, and I'm thinking about it in Immortal Slumber, it definitely says how Chad's father was hung up on Elise's mother before they disappeared. And then they disappeared, and obviously she had Elise, but he was not even with anybody to have had Chad before she was born. So I'm surprised nobody's caught me on that or called me out on that. I'm like, oh no, I have to go back and like fix things. I'm like, nope, I figured it out. So it's gonna be a nice little twist.
Well, I suppose just because he's pining for someone doesn't mean he can't have a little fun on the side.
Yeah. So there's a whole other like curse thing that came about because of sickness and that's from Blood Rights. So it definitely, I guess I did kind of mix something up. It wasn't a timeline issue per se for the two series, but it was just in general an issue. But yeah, this is Blood Rights. I love my pretties.
Yes.
They're amazing. I can't wait until the next one. I have an idea for it with all the blue flame. I'm like, okay, now every book has to have some kind of flame, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same color. I have an idea up here. Let's see. That one comes out. The second one comes out in January. So soon we'll be working on the cover.
Yes.
I think they do them 30 days before release, so somewhere near Christmas.
Okay. Cool.
Maybe it'd be a Christmas present for everybody if we get it done before then.
Yeah, that would be a nice Christmas present.
That would be.
Well, once again, I appreciate you taking time to kind of answer some more questions for me, for the audience, for everyone. I will make sure that all of your social media accounts are listed in the description box, and there'll also be a link back to the original text interview for anyone who wants to read it.
Awesome.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say to any viewers?
Just that I am thankful for everybody who has bought and read my books and left reviews. It makes my days that much happier. Especially when I wake up and see another review. Even the 1 stars, which I haven't gotten yet. I've gotten a 2 star. I haven't gotten a 1 star. I'm kind of disappointed. And just, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Long day.
No, it's all right. Thank you very much.
No problem.